Hi everybody, Rechief here. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Let's Play Ace Attorney Investigations Miles Edgeworth, Prosecutor's Path, episodes 1 through 5, beta. Today we're going to answer that central question: can Mr. Edgeworth in fact prove that Mr. Gustavia is the criminal? Let's find out. All we know for sure is that Mr. Gustavia fell victim to the poison gas. No matter how strange his behavior was, it won't prove he committed the murder. But that's... Mr. Shields, is there nothing we can do? Well, if there isn't any evidence, we should try reorganizing the facts. If Mr. Gustavia was the one who killed Mr. Dover, there must have been a motive. Motive. Mr. Gustavia himself is denying that such a motive exists. Okay. It's not easy to take another person's life. 18 years ago, your old man also discussed motive with Prosecutor von Karma. You claim their collaboration is irrelevant. If Mr. Gustavia and Mr. Dover's relationship had turned sour... it could serve as a motive for murder. We couldn't talk with Mr. Gustavia 18 years ago, but this time, things are different. If we connect everything we've learned so far, the truth might be revealed. Yes, I suppose so. It seems I must re-examine the information from 18 years ago. I must recall all the details that have remained unexplained.
So, the gloved finger marks on the picture frame was your doing?
Delicia denied leaving the finger marks on the frame. If they were left by Mr. Gustavia, he may have been trying to view the angel's recipe. Monsieur Master asked me to change the film in the camera. It seems the film he prepared in advance wasn't enough. There wasn't enough film? It seems the number of photos he took didn't match up with the amount of film remaining. Well, he told me himself it might have been just a mistake, though. The information my father collected 18 years ago is certainly not for naught. If there is no evidence, then I shall use logic to reveal the truth. Okay. So I have to assume that the motive for the murder is either partnership turned sour, or was Angel's recipe his goal? I'm going to try this one first. Good. Mr. Gustavia, you collaborated with the victim, Isaac Dover, to create your desserts, didn't you?
Oh, it seems you know about my secret.
Mr. Shields told me about it. Mr. Dover handled the design while you were in charge of the taste, is that correct?
Back then my training had been insufficient.
It seems you worked together until the semi-finals, but not during the finals. Why is that?
We both wish to compete in the finals against Sir Master on our own merits.
Objection!
You must have also helped with Isaac Dover's dessert, even during the finals.
What makes you able to declare something like that?
Didn't you tell Prosecutor von Karma about it yourself 18 years ago? That you cooperated until the day before the finals? The sculptures in Mr. Dover's room were all made out of sherbet. Such an amount would most likely need to be left overnight to freeze. Which means Mr. Gustavia prepared Mr. Dover's sherbet in advance the day before.
That's right. So you realized Gustavia's cooperation ended the day before the finals.
Then, why did Mr. Dover not help Mr. Gustavia in return?
Objection!
The views of the dead are of no concern to me.
Why did Isaac Dover not help you in return? If there's a reason why your partnership with Isaac Dover broke down, that would be a motive for murder.
That could be a possibility. However, Sir Dover and I ended our partnership peacefully.
A peaceful breakup? That's hard to imagine.
Not to mention it's absurd to think that I killed Sir Dover in Sir Master's room. I couldn't have killed Sir Dover while Sir Master was also there, making his desserts. In other words, there is no way I could have committed the murder.
That's not true. If there was a moment when Mr. Master was absent from the room, I could prove that it was possible for Mr. Gustavia to commit the murder. So we gotta connect some stuff here, and obviously it's gotta be one of these possible connections. I think that what the game wants me to do is link timing of Gustavia Dover's murder with one of these things. But I was also thinking that I could link remaining film with was Angel's recipe his goal, because maybe he like took pictures of the recipe. I guess it could also be that maybe while they were getting the film, that's when he killed him. Yeah, let's try that first, since I feel like it wants us to link timing of Dover's murder to something. Okay, no. Not exactly a shining example of the perfect line of logic. Okay. Well, then let's try my initial thought. Ha-ha! Yay! If he had photographed the contents of the Angel's recipe, he wouldn't need to steal it. Perhaps Mr. Gustavia used Mr. Masters' camera to take the pictures. If he had stolen the actual recipe book, the police would have found out. I see. Pictures, eh? The problem... that's not Shields. The problem is that the time at which... Okay. Let me take a second here. The problem is the time at which he entered Mr. Master's room. That's better. Mr. Gustavia could have moved around freely during the afternoon tea, right? Because it seems both him and Mr. Dover did not participate in the afternoon tea. Oh, okay. If I remember correctly, the only time we can prove that Dover was still alive is...
The victim was not seen, as he stayed locked up in his room after the contest had begun. The only one who could have unlocked the locked rooms was Jeff Master.
Was Master's desserts all that you ate? Actually, no. After the afternoon tea, I also ate Icy's desserts. After the contest began, Isaac Dover was locked up in his room. If we assume he was killed at some point before Delicia snuck into his room, then there is a high chance that he was killed before the afternoon tea was over. Well then, guess we're gonna have to connect these two thoughts. See what happens. Isaac Dover was alive up until the afternoon tea began. Ergo, that is the only time when Gustavia could have killed Dover. Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you satisfied? Sorry, but I'm far from satisfied. Because I am finally starting to see the truth behind this case. Are you saying you have found some evidence to show us that truth? No. There is no need to present any evidence, since we can just have Mr. Gustavia tell us the truth. Ah, so this is where you use that, right? Indeed. Mr. Gustavia, there is one thing I want you to tell me. I said, Mr. Gustavia, there is one thing I want you to tell me.
What is it?
During the finals of the contest, you made your desserts on your own.
I wanted to compete for the title of the world's greatest pastry chef on my own merits.
If that was truly the case, you would have competed on your own merits from the start. I want you to tell me why it was necessary for you to cooperate with Isaac Dover. Oh yeah. During a contest 18 years ago, Mr. Gustavia collaborated with Mr. Dover. I wonder, what made them decide to cooperate in the first place? That's what I need to draw out from him, but... It seems he pretends to meditate when things aren't going his way. First, I'll ask about why he collaborated with Mr. Dover. The truth has been hidden for 18 years. That ends today. I love this mechanic. Why did you decide to collaborate with Isaac Dover?
Sir Dover and I were already acquaintances even before the contest began. Since he was interested in the contest, we simply decided to enter it together.
Joining forces with a sculptor, you weren't confident in your own abilities.
You know nothing about me. We wanted to make great works together.
I will reveal all your lies for what they are, because that didn't work.
Is that all? You bore me with your empty threats, Sir Prosecutor. Prosecutor.
I need to be careful not to make careless statements. Okay, ooh, that was a deep cut. I must read my opponent's reactions and emotions and strike with the right words. So let's wait and see.
Sir Dover's son and my own attended the same elementary school. We all got along well from the start.
Really? So are you going to share the title of world's greatest pastry chef together?
My condition may be worsening. I should get back to the infirmary.
Wait! I was too passive there. I must read my opponent's reactions and blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Okay. As expected, he pretends to meditate when things aren't going his way. Mr. Dover was a sculptor. I doubt he had any interest in the title of the world's greatest pastry chef. In that case, where did his true goal lie?
Indeed, my goal was the title of the world's greatest pastry chef. However, Sir Dover's goal was the grand prize, the angel's recipe.
I see. You cooperated because your interests were aligned. But there must have been a reason why your partnership soured.
Sir Prosecutor, I am the victim of a poisoning. If you're going to suspect me in this manner, perhaps I'd better return to the infirmary.
Wait a moment.
In that case, you should end things soon. I am not a patient man.
It seems he's trying to leave. I can't let that happen. He's still hiding something. Next, I should ask him about his true goal. Okay, that's a relief. I need to keep the pressure on him while being cautious of the time. Didn't you have another goal besides the title? The title alone doesn't seem to have much value.
How dare the likes of you insult the title of a confectionery artist? My only goal was the title itself. I had no interest in anything else. My dream was to become the world's greatest pastry chef.
I will review... I should really just default to wait and see.
"18 years ago, I was lacking in design sense. However, things are different now."
Oh? Are you saying you've improved at your craft?
"Exactly, for I have trained at the Republic of Zhengfa." Yes. At the time, I also studied Mr. Masters' works. I would often watch his show with my son.
So, you were studying Mr. Masters' work to improve your own skill. If you had his recipes, perhaps it would have been easier for you to become the world's greatest.
Perhaps. To a pastry chef, Sir Masters' recipes were worth their weight in gold.
If becoming the world's greatest pastry chef was your goal, you should have also been interested in the grand prize, the Angel's Recipe.
The recipes of the world's greatest pastry chef. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't interested. However, I wouldn't think that simply being interested would be a problem.
I wonder about that. The Angel's Recipe true nature was not for making desserts, but cures. And all of the contest participants should have been aware of that. Looks like I'm getting close. He isn't meditating anymore. Now to slowly but surely drive him into a corner. Whoop whoop. Next I'll ask what he planned to use the recipe book for. The Angel's Recipe. Do you know its true value?
Silly question. It contains Sir Master's best dessert recipes. Any pastry chef worth their salt would want it.
It seems I don't have enough clues to proceed with this line of questioning. Maybe I should try another line of attack. Did you intend to win the Angel's Recipe and use it to make desserts?
Of course. If I obtained the Angel's Recipe, I was going to use it in my training.
I hear the Angel's Recipe was worth a lot of money.
I don't know the exact details, but that recipe book was much too valuable to be sold.
You seem to know quite a lot about the Angel's Recipe. Nice.
It was explained to all the contest participants at the beginning of the contest.
In that case, you must know about the recipe book's true nature. That it was not a recipe book for desserts at all.
Impressive, Sir Prosecutor. So you know the true nature of the Angel's Recipe. The Angel's Recipe. Some have called it the ultimate recipe book. It contained formulas for new medicines that were not yet on the market.
He knew the recipes were actually formulas for new medicines. This could be a useful clue. Yes, it just completely refutes this whole shit. Looks like that clue will come in handy. You may have studied design in Zhengfa. However, your skills in lying could use more work. You just said earlier that the Angel's Recipe contained formulas for medicines. You weren't interested in the desserts. You wanted the medicine formulas. Now, why would a pastry chef such as yourself be so interested in medicine? Perhaps what you were really after was the information about the new medicine.
I've underestimated you, Sir Prosecutor. Yes. My goal was more than just the title of the world's greatest pastry chef. At the time my son was ill, I needed the recipe for the medicine.
Your son was ill? Tell me more about that.
To protect my son's honor, I can say no more.
Judging by the worried look on his face, I must have struck a nerve. Next, I need him to tell me more about his son's illness. Oh, damn, Edgeworth, you a cold bitch. I don't care that your son is sick. Tell me about it. This is it. This will be my final move of the game. What kind of person was your son?
Ah, my boy, he loved the desserts I made.
Did you enter the contest solely for your son?
Sir Prosecutor, you could never understand the feelings a father has for his son. I wanted nothing more than to cure my boy's illness. Until the semi-finals, my son would always drop by the contest venue to play.
Is that so? Wouldn't he get in your way? I doubt you had time to care for your son while you were challenging Mr. Master.
That may be so, but I wanted to grant my son's wish. He said he always wanted to be the first to eat my desserts.
About your son. If he was so sick, wouldn't it be difficult for him to come and play with you?
My son's illness, it wasn't life-threatening.
That might serve as a clue. Okay. What was the name of your son's illness?
Sir Prosecutor, how insensitive of you. My son was seriously ill. I will not be discussing this with the likes of you.
Looks like that clue will come in handy. You told me your son's illness was not life-threatening. Is there really a need to be so secretive about it?
It was enough to keep him from living a normal life.
That must have been difficult for your son.
I tried everything I could to cure his illness. It wasn't fair for the poor boy. He could never taste the desserts he loved so much.
The Angel's recipe contains a cure for a certain illness. A remedy that could also cure Mr. Master's taste disorder.
What? He had it too?
He had it too? I see. So your son suffers from a taste disorder.
No! I didn't think you'd figured it out so quickly.
In order to cure your son's taste disorder, you needed the recipe book. Wasn't that your true goal?
It is as you say.
Based on how he's acted up until now, it appears he's still hiding something. It seems I don't have enough clues to proceed with this line of questioning. Maybe I should try another line of attack. Did the Angel's recipe have the only cure?
Yes, though the medicine is being sold everywhere now. At the time, the recipe book was my one and only option. That's why I continued making my desserts without joining the others for tea time.
So you weren't interested in what Mr. Master was making? You sure seemed confident in your chances of winning.
I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the other contestants' desserts.
That's why I should have waited a little bit before reading, because I said contestants weirdly. Whatever. You just said earlier that you studied Mr. Master's works. In addition, if your goal was to win the contest in order to get the medicine formula, you must have been curious about the other contestants' entries as well. This is a very resilient... what is that, a rook? Very resilient rook, bishop, something.
It was time to sample the other desserts during the contest, but none of their entries had any flavor, so I didn't want to eat any of it. I suspect I may have been a bit nervous as well.
So everything he ate tasted flavorless. This could be a useful clue. Okay. Was he too fat? No. Looks like that clue will come in handy. Being unable to taste anything regardless of what you eat. Such a bitter illness. Except that it's not bitter, because you wouldn't be able to taste how bitter it was. That reminds me. Didn't you say something similar earlier? None of their entries had any flavor, so I didn't feel like eating any of it, wasn't it? Perhaps your son wasn't the only one who suffered from a taste disorder. Boy. It's hard to imagine being a successful pastry chef without a sense of taste. Perhaps what you really wanted was to cure yourself.
That's completely ludicrous. 18 years ago, I made those desserts all by myself.
It seems you've caught yourself in a contradiction. Didn't you cooperate with Isaac Dover in the contest? You can hardly say you made the desserts all by yourself. You must take great pride in your abilities as a pastry chef, but to betray your pride and cooperate with another contestant. You did it all to cure your own disease.
Well done, Sir Prosecutor. It's as you say. The one with the taste disorder is not my son. It is I. No one knew. I've kept it a secret for 18 years.
It doesn't matter how long a secret is kept. If you lie before me, I will expose it. Dane Gustavia and Isaac Dover were both trying to obtain the recipes for the new medicines. Gustavia to cure his condition, and Dover most likely to sell the recipe book for money. For this reason, they entered the contest as a collaborative effort. And with that, checkmate. All right.
Yes!
Good.
I have never told this to anyone. Well done. As you say, I developed a taste disorder 18 years ago.
Taste disorder? Man, like everybody has a taste disorder. This must be a much more common disorder than I was initially led to believe.
It was a severe disorder. I was unable to discern any flavor at all. It's the one illness a pastry chef dreads above all.
Those symptoms sound a bit different from Mr. Master's taste disorder. Mr. Master's condition is known as hypergeusia. It simply causes a decreased sensitivity to certain specific flavors.
I'm sure this caused Sir Master much pain too. After all, no medication was available to cure it 18 years ago.
In order to cure your taste disorder, you would need Mr. Master's angel recipe. And that's why you entered the contest, am I correct?
That was one of my goals, but I still had my sights set on the title of world's greatest. When it comes to making desserts, I won't lose to anyone. Even without the ability to taste, I still have the utmost confidence in my flavors.
Oh, so I presume you also prepared your dessert in the finals with intent to win.
That goes without saying.
According to what Mr. Shields told us earlier, the evaluation of Mr. Gustavia's entry was...
Up until the semi-finals, Mr. Gustavia's flavors and design were to my liking. Unfortunately, both the taste and appearance of his finals entry left much to be desired.
It seems the desserts you made for the finals was not rated highly in regards to flavor. Mr. Gustavia, you will tell us about how you made your dessert during the finals.
Very well. It seems I must teach you upstarts a lesson.
And we're going to find out exactly how he made his dessert for the finals next time. On the future exciting episode of... That was a weird way to say it. On the next episode of Ace Attorney Investigations, Miles Edgeworth, episodes 1 through 5 beta, Prosecutor's Path, which will, in fact, take place in the future.